Hey everyone, it's Michael Hill here in Sandy Run, and it's a beautiful day. We're here to talk to Chris Smith, who is running for South Carolina District 26, trying to get to know him a little bit. So, Chris, tell me a little bit about yourself. How'd you get into politics?
Well, I'm not sure that I'm in politics. This is more spiritual for me than it is political.
Awesome.
Going back to 95, I was with the original Promise Keeper Task Force, which is a Christ-centered ministry for men started by Bill McCartney that was calling men back to accountability and God's standard for our life. And through that, the next year, we brought Tony Evans into Columbia many times, and culminating in a 3-day evangelistic crusade at Williams-Brice Stadium. The following year, back with Promise Keepers as both the state director and the regional coordinator, and I was the event manager for the Promise Keeper Conference at Williams-Brice in '98. I was asked to get involved in Easter Sunrise 2000 at the stadium, and so I was the event manager for that. For the last 12 years, I've been the regional coordinator for the National Day of Prayer. And through that, I thought, if I'm going to be down here praying at the State House once a year for our politicians and our government, it might be best if I was down here about once a week. And so I started going down there and praying.
Right.
And I had met a few of them, and I got to know most of them now. And then I started seeing what was going on. And the more I learned about what goes on in our State House, the more sickened my stomach became.
Right.
And I began to realize that as a conservative, constitutional Christian, I don't have any representation in that Senate. And so about 4 years ago, I started thinking about this. 2 years ago, I started really thinking about it hard and considering it. About 6 months ago, I gathered a group of pastors around me and talked to some pretty influential people around the state.
Right.
And my question to them was, or my statement to them was, all I want you to do is tell me don't do this.
Right.
Because I don't want to do it. But I think back on Promise Keepers and Easter Sunrise 2000 and Tony Evans and the National Day of Prayer, and I didn't want to do that either.
Right.
But I was called into it.
Yeah.
And there's a Bible verse, and the Sunday before we had to file on Monday, I'd watched a couple of church services on the computer, and I shut everything down and said, okay, Lord, what are we doing? And God spoke and said, would you mind going back and rereading Isaiah chapter 6? I said, Lord, I got it memorized. I don't need to reread it. He said, what does it say? I said, well, you ask Isaiah a simple question, who shall I send? And Isaiah said, send me, I'll go. And when I asked you that question in 95, what was your answer? I said, send me, Lord, I'll go. And then when you read verse 9, what did that say? Then go. And what was your response then? I said, I went. He said, then go. I said, okay. And so I went down the next morning and filed, and here we are.
How about that?
I love people. I love meeting people.
Right.
And as I say, this is more spiritual for me than it is political.
Right.
Because our government no longer works for the people.
Right. I absolutely agree.
And it makes me sick.
Right.
They're up there making decisions. They're spending money like it grows on trees. And if it does, I'd like to have one of those trees in my yard.
Too.
But we need some accountability down there. We need some people in the State House. And we have a nucleus of people that I would call patriots that are in there serving now.
That's good to know.
But they are far and few between.
Right.
And they need help. And there are some good people running around the state right now for office, and I've met most of them. Most of them have called me with questions because they have surface knowledge of issues. For some reason, I've got in-depth knowledge of issues like the gas tax, the SC&G debacle. My number one thing would be the abortion bill.
Right.
And why is that bill still sitting in the Senate, the heartbeat bill, when you just saw Tennessee passed it yesterday? Why that bill passed the House last year and has been sitting in the Senate for over a year? Why? Well, I can tell you why. Because the Democrats and my opponent have threatened that if you bring that bill to the floor for a vote, we will open it up for debate and kill it right here. And as a conservative constitutional Christian, I have been in that fight for over 10 years.
Wow.
Most of the bills that you're watching walk through the State House right now are because of the efforts of me and several other people putting pressure on certain legislators that have written these bills and pushed them through.
Right.
But I'll remind you, that bill is sitting in the Senate right now, and they will not bring it to the floor for a vote.
Wow.
Because Nikki Setzler and the Democrats, and I've had enough.
Right.
I've had enough. It's time that we put the church and God and Christian values back in that State House.
I absolutely agree.
So,
wow. So, thinking back on what you said at that Promise Keepers event at, I was there at that event.
Were you really?
At Williams-Brice, I sure was. That was awesome event.
What an unbelievable experience that was.
Tony Evans was a great guy.
Yeah.
Man, he's an awesome Christian.
We're actually trying to bring him back to Columbia right now.
Really?
Yeah, we're working.
That'd be great.
That was an interesting story too.
Really?
WMHK, our Christian radio station, was getting ready to celebrate their 20th year anniversary. And they were trying to get a speaker. They wanted to do a big event. Right. And Linda White, who was the general manager at the time, was trying to get Tony Evans, and she couldn't get to him. And so Rusty Rabin, who I had gotten to know, and he's still one of my very dear friends today, Rusty suggested to her that we've got a Promise Keeper task force, why don't you contact them? So she did, thinking that we might be able to get to Tony Evans. Mm-hmm. Well, we couldn't get to him either. And so a guy named Pete Cannon and I are having lunch one day up in Irmo, and we're talking about, there's a back door here somewhere. How are we going to find this back door to get to him? And and all of a sudden, this guy sitting at the table next to us leans over and goes, "Please excuse me, I'm not eavesdropping on your conversation, but are you talking about the Tony Evans, the black pastor out of Dallas?" I said, "Well, yeah, why?" He said, "Well, my name's Joe Gramont, and I was the one-time president of Precision Tune, and I was based in Washington, D.C. And Tony Evans is from Baltimore, which is where he started his urban alternative ministry. Oh. And when I heard about that ministry, I got involved in it. And I'm on his board of directors." And Pete and I are going, "Wow. You got to be kidding."
Wow.
He said, "What do you want?" And we told him what he wanted. He said, "Well, I'll call him when I get home, and I'll call you later this afternoon." 2 hours later, he calls back and goes, "Okay, that date range that you gave me, here are his available dates." And so we called Linda. Linda confirmed. We called him. He confirmed.
That's how it came back.
That's how God works.
Wow, that's
and
awesome.
I've seen it over and over and over and over and over again.
Wow.
And I've seen it in my campaign. You wouldn't believe who God is raising up that out of nowhere is going, "Well, let me tell you who I am and what I do." And I'm going, "You got to be kidding."
That's awesome. I mean, that just tells you right there that, this is kind of meant to be, right?
Right. So when you asked that question a minute ago, who is Chris Smith? That's really not the right question.
Okay.
The correct question is, whose is Chris Smith?
Huh.
And I'm a son of the Most High God.
Hey, awesome.
And when you walk in that anointing and that power and authority, it is amazing what God will do.
That's, I know there's a lot of people, a lot of men that strive to be that and to try to project that in a community and try to do the right thing. So, I applaud you for doing that and following through.
And I've done all of that, by the way, as a volunteer.
Right.
I've never been paid a penny for any of that, even the National Day of Prayer.
Right.
I did all of that while working a full-time job with Piedmont, U.S. Air, and American Airlines.
So you're retired from that?
I am retired now.
So what are you doing now?
Well, I'm a realtor and a builder, and so I have a few rental properties that enable me to do this.
So you qualify to be in that segment of the United States, small business, mm-hmm. private sector. What drives the economy.
Correct.
People just don't realize that that's the backbone of America is small business, and it just amazes me is that people think that government is the answer. Government is not the answer.
No, they are not. They probably created your problem.
Correct.
They're not going to fix it.
That's generally what they do. Let's create a problem so we can continue to be part of it and stir it up and continue to get money and take money in. And there's a lot of people that are fed up with that.
Me being one of them.
So, Sandy Run area here, we're sitting in front of the Lazy Llama here, which is a, small business. And this is really the heart of Sandy Run, this area right here. And we have several small businesses real close by. We got Sandy Run Outdoors and Hardware, and I got a Dollar General, and we got what we finally refer to as Pete's Store up here at the corner. And
and so Sandy Run Exterminating next door. Mike McCoy's a good friend of mine. Known him for years.
Yeah, I've known him all my life. So he's born and raised right here, just like me. So there's a lot of people around here that feel the same way you do. I'm hoping there's enough people that will stand up, and we need it across the country to try to make a difference. You have to start somewhere. You're starting here at the state level, so that's
and know this, that the state level as far as I want to go.
Right.
And my question leading into all this with the state chair and the county chair is, do you have anybody else that has shown an interest in this race? Because I do not want to do this, but I will.
Right.
And so nobody. Well, one guy did, but who is he? Nobody knows.
Right.
And anyway, government probably created your problem. They're not going to solve it, and I don't want government to help me. I want them to get out of my way.
Absolutely.
And let me do.
Yep.
And that seems to be, even the governor the other day talking about this coronavirus. It's time for personal responsibility.
Absolutely.
And the liberal left doesn't like that statement.
No.
But I will tell you that the more we learn about this virus, the more we understand that until everybody gets an antibody for this, we're going to have to live this way.
That herd immunity, I think, is what a lot of
the herd immunity thing, and the only way that you're going to get it is to get exposed to it. And most of us will get it and never know we had it.
Correct.
And for those that have underlying health conditions, we need to be cautious with those people.
Right. Sure.
I've got a 91-year-old mother. I went home for Mother's Day.
Right.
First time in my life I didn't get a hug from my mama.
Wow, that's a shame.
And she didn't get a hug from me.
That's
I surprised her. I walked in, and they live in Atlanta, Mom and Dad,
Okay.
and I didn't tell her I was coming. So she's over working on her third 1,000-piece puzzle, because I've had them under lockdown since March.
Right.
And finally she looked up and she jumps out of the chair, and no, 6 feet, 6 feet. And but anyway, I spent 5 or 6 days with her, and but this virus, what does the new normal look like? It looks just like the old normal did. And so I mean, I've not slowed down. I've been cautious, but I've not slowed down. Wash your hands.
Right.
And use your blinker. That lever on the left side of your steering wheel is not an optional item.
Right.
Every car has one. Please use it.
Yeah, we've had a lot of traffic going by here this morning. It's a beautiful day. We had a nice rainstorm come through last night, and we really needed the rain. But the Sandy Run area, there's probably a lot of people that's going to watch this that maybe a lot of them have no idea who you are, may not know of you. So you've said a lot of things that trying to get some attention and draw people in to take up an issue of stance against the government overreach and a lot of stuff. So do you have any other things that you'd like to say to the folks of Sandy Run?
The common word that I hear as I travel through Sandy Run, and know this district is huge. I mean, it runs from the river, West Columbia, Casey, and then it drops down into Calhoun County, Sandy Run area. It goes all the way out to Aiken, 70 miles, and 40 miles wide, because I go up into Saluda County.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
And I mean, it's a huge district.
Right.
And the common thing I continue to hear as I travel around and talk to the people in Sandy Run, and Pillion, Swansea, Wagner, North, Sally, on over into Aiken, up into Minetta, that area, is that, Chris, we've been neglected. Nobody ever comes around. Where is our state senator? And you're the first person we've seen down here in years.
Wow.
And I'm going, this has got to stop. I know that Casey and West Columbia are well represented, and I know why.
Right.
But the rest of the district is ignored. And I'm, I look and listen and talk, and these people are, really they're sitting on an island by themselves because they don't have any representation in their state house.
I know exactly how
and I know Nicky, and they're going to tell you three things about him, and I'm going to agree with them 100%. He is a great guy. He is really nice. I like him, and I do. But this is what happens when you stay too long. You get in bed with the wrong people, and you forget who you work for. And that's the people, the voter.
That's a shame.
And I will never, ever lose sight of who I work for, and that's y'all. I'm a servant, and that's the greatest title I've ever had, a servant of the Most High God.
Wow.
And I'm a servant to the people. As I said, all that stuff I talked about at the beginning, I've never been paid a penny for it.
Right.
I did it because I love people and I love my Lord.
That's awesome.
And all I want to do is serve. And if I can serve the good people in that state house as their representative and state senator, then so be it. I'll do it. Because my answer is already yes, Lord. And so that's just where I'm at. There are issues that I would like to see straightened out.
Yeah.
There are things like economic development down here. You got that industrial park sitting up out there right now, but nobody's fighting for you, the good people of the Sandy Run area, trying to develop it. And of course, when Nicky sees this video, he'll probably do something. Just like we drew attention the other day, several weeks ago, it was brought to my attention that if you have a medical emergency in the western part of my district, you are 45 to 50 minutes away from help.
Yep.
There's nothing. and so what does our senator do when I guess he read that thing, because last week he goes over to Aiken and has a big meeting over there talking about we've got to improve the response time of our EMS people, because somebody had to be transported from western or eastern Aiken over to Lexington Medical Center. It took 56 minutes.
Wow. That's
56
a long ride.
minutes. And his answer is we've got to increase response time. And of course the Aiken Standard slobbers all over him. Oh, look at what we got somebody in. And I'm going, are y'all nuts? Okay, so you increase response time from 10 minutes to 8. Let's say they increase response time from 10 minutes to 6. So now it didn't take 56 minutes, it took 54, 52 minutes. Wow. Now that'll make a difference.
Right.
And I'm going, are y'all, it's time we start looking at, I had a conversation yesterday, and I hope to continue this conversation, and I'm going to leave that there for now, about we got to find a solution to this. But the first thing we got to do is recognize we got a problem. I read a book a long time ago. I'm a lay counselor in my church and other places, but the name of that book was When You're Tired of Treating the Symptoms and Ready for a Cure, Give Me a Call. And so I don't treat symptoms. I treat what is the problem. And the problem has nothing to do with a response time. The problem has to do with you're 45 to 50, 55 minutes away from help if you're over in that part of the county. And so we need a something where if you had a medical emergency, a facility in that area that you could take these people and get them care and get them stabilized and then transport them to the hospital. And so that's the conversation I'm hoping to open and create.
Well, that would also take some pressure off of the Lexington medical area and system. It would free up some room there if there was ever a need for that. So, yeah, to me, that's kind of like a common sense approach. Common sense issues and resolutions are often the easiest way to do it, but a lot of people don't want to use common sense. So,
I'll never forget something that a saying at Piedmont Airlines. People always called us a Mickey Mouse outfit.
Really?
And we had a vice president one day that said, Mickey has some pretty good ideas. And the more simple that you can do this, the better off we are. And so we never were trying to complicate what we were doing. We were always trying to find out, okay, what's the simplest, easiest, direct path to what we're doing. And for that reason, that's my thinking today is, okay, cost effectiveness. What's the most cost effective way to do this correctly?
Right.
We don't need to go spend $40 or $50 million building a facility out there in that area.
Mm-hmm.
When we could spend 8, 10, 12,000, possibly even partner with an existing facility,
Mm-hmm.
and make it cost effective, where if you had a medical emergency in that area, and even in the Sandy Run area,
Mm-hmm.
that you could be taken to that facility, stabilized, and then taken to the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
saving lives.
There's a lot of times where people, it seems like it may be life-threatening, and you get taken to the emergency room, and then you find out it's not really as bad as they thought, and then they end up sending you back home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of wasted money and a lot of time and everything. So those are that's one idea. That's one thing. So this area down here has got a lot of, I think a lot of conservative minds and conservative minded people, and sounds like you're along that path.
The more time I've spent down here, I mean, I love this area, and if I find a little property down here, I'd probably move down here. I love it down here.
I thought I heard you were interested in some little property, 5-10 acres maybe, something like that.
A little water.
Little water.
A little water.
You want a pond, huh?
Or a stream, either one.
We got some areas like that. So if anybody's watching, you got some property for sale, Chris is your guy.
When I moved to Columbia, we were, I was in Atlanta, and grew up in Atlanta, and I knew that we had just opened that hub in Charlotte, and so they were going to be reducing what we were doing in Atlanta, and I could choose where I went, or they could choose for me where I was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I walked in one day and saw it opening in Columbia, and Columbia, and I walked over, and a little while later I went back over and saw it again. I pulled out a map and looked at it, and it went Lake, River, Capital, University, Fort Jackson, and a hospital system. I said, so I took it down and walked up, handed it to my manager, said, call him and tell him I'll take it. He said, you don't even want to go over and look around? I said, no, I'll just find out when he wants me.
That's awesome.
And so I moved over here sight unseen.
Right.
And something about that water. I love the water.
Yeah.
But, I just hit on the 4 economic engines that churn the Midlands region, including Sandy Run's economy.
Right.
And that was my question, and I've known Steve Benjamin for years. And I was with him about a month ago, and I asked him, Steve, as we start to re-crank up our economy, looking at the fact that the University of South Carolina really drives our economy more than anything, although Fort Jackson and the hospital systems and the government that we have here contribute a lot too. But you just removed 42,000 students from this region. A lot of them may not come back. They get home and find out that I can take online classes, and this is saving me an enormous amount of money, because one of the huge problems we've got right now is the student debt.
Yeah.
These kids are walking out of school $150,000 in debt.
Can't imagine that.
And they're majoring in things that don't pay enough for them to pay that money back.
Yeah.
And I scratched my head about that one too, but that's a different interview.
Right.
But anyway, what are our plans as we move forward to restart those economic engines? Fort Jackson's on lockdown and still on lockdown.
Wow.
And I mean, we can't have that virus getting in our military. Our military's got to remain strong. And one more thing about that is that, and I posted this earlier, if you slept in peace and safety last night, please reach out sometime today and thank a police officer.
Awesome.
Because they're responsible for you being able to do that.
Yeah.
Or a military guy.
Right.
Because nobody attacked this country last night.
We take that for granted.
And we take it for granted. And those guys are under attack, and we need to be encouraging and thanking them for what they do for us right now. Because I truly appreciate it.
Yeah. Awesome.
So.
All right. Well, we're going to probably wrap this up, and there's time. How long are you going to be? Are you going to be here for a little while longer?
Yeah, I'm
here
going to
at the
be
Lazy
here
Llama?
probably about half the day or so.
Okay.
If anything going on down here, I want to go, and I'm going to go down and revisit with some people that I've met that, in the past down at the outdoors and different things, And if you want to get in touch with me, my telephone number is 803-422-6337. On Facebook, it's Chris Smith for Senate 26. So if you have questions, concerns, comments, reach out to me. I'll be happy to talk to you, and know that these aren't first-time visits down here. I think this is the 4th time in a month that I've been down here.
Really?
So I will not be a stranger, but also please know that I got 70 miles this way and 40 miles this way to cover. So anyway, thank y'all. I love the good people of Sandy Run.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.